It needs to be said that the Tolino Vision 6 is the exact same thing as the Libra 2 from Kobo Rakuten. Reason being, after the merger a few years back, they've been producing alongside each other using the exact same shells from the same plant. The plastics, materials, button placement, ports, everything is going to be exactly the same. The only thing different, however, is the logo and the back pattern, which employs a perforated wavy leather style look. However, with that, you get the e-ink Carta 1200 screen, 1680 by 1264, and the comfort light system that made Kobo so popular in the first place. But it's their software and content delivery system that sets them aside to their Kobo counterpart. Let's take a look at the Tolino Vision 6. The hardware may be the same, but the software is entirely different. Looking at the home screen, you're going to see no parallels drawn between the Kobo Rakuten line and the Tolino line. If you tap the top left here, this is going to take you over to the menu where you have your Wi-Fi toggle or flight mode, which will just be airplane mode, turning off all communications. You have your web browser, settings, my account, and information and help. Settings will take you over where you can assign the page turn buttons to do different things. You can do none, homepage, illumination, touch on or off. You can actually map the controls of what you want each of these to do. You can swap the forward and back directions if you so choose to do so. You can change the illumination, or you can change the illumination from the top as well. We'll show you that in a little bit. And yes, this does have the comfort light color temperature from the Kobo lineup as well. Numbers lock. You can actually lock this device by putting in a numerical code by toggling it on, and you can basically password protect your Tolino. Because Tolino is primarily only in Europe, you only get 6 languages to choose from in the language menu. Under reading settings, you do have some toggles to help you deal with LCP encryption, which is licensed content protection. You also have left-handed mode and screen refresh, where you can change it from never all the way up to every page to every 100th page. Unfortunately, out of the 16 gigabytes that is advertised on the device itself, with only one PDF and one ebook on here, you only get 11.8. So you actually shave off over 4 gigabytes of storage just for the OS itself. The web browser is fairly slow and sluggish. It's also a little bit hard to deal with. You don't know where you are on the screen. The slider bar on the right telling you how far up you are is hidden underneath the bezel itself. You can't really see it from dead on. You have to tilt your head over kind of this way, and when you do pinch and zoom, there's no mini-map to tell you where you are. All you have is a zoom in and zoom out, in which case it just goes step by step. It's not a very good experience, although gun to your head, it is there if you need it. A 7-inch screen is more than enough to read books properly. You can swipe, you can tap, or you can press the physical page turn buttons. You can also long press them, in which case it's going to fly through the book with minimal refreshes. It's very nice, and it actually doesn't refresh all the time. Regardless of that, the screen remains fairly white. Long pressing on something brings you some options: highlight, write, note, look up, and translate. If you box a whole bunch, you actually get rid of translate, so you can't do what Amazon can do and translate an entire book from language to language, unfortunately. Writing notes is fairly decent. You do get a row of numbers up top, although it's not a full QWERTY keyboard in the traditional sense in which the characters are staggered. They're actually stacked on top of each other. Response is adequate, and it doesn't play catch up too hard. You have a button to lower the keyboard as well. If you pinch and zoom on an ebook, you get a text control, although you can't actually select them live. It's just telling you how much you've pinched and zoomed. So it's a little bit misleading when you look at it that way. Tapping in the center, you do have some ways to change the text and your line spacing, alignments, margins, or if you get too ahead of yourself, you can change it back to the publisher's defaults. You have a lot of fonts preloaded, 8 in total, and you have dyslexic font as well preloaded in there. We always say 7-inch screens are absolutely baseline passable for PDFs. We don't recommend it if it's for your bread and butter, your educational future. It's just there if you need it. Don't rely on this for reading your medical charts. And the system on this is actually not that great. Page turns are very slow, and when you long press, you actually scan through the book at an unknown rate. You don't really know how far you've gone, and it just keeps going until it feels like it's finished. Long press does not work on this unit, it does absolutely nothing, and pinch and zoom is awful. When you pinch and zoom, the entire thing slows down to a snail's pace, nothing gets done properly, you don't know where you are on the page, everything is very slow, it just hobbles along, and it's an absolutely unusable experience. And this is a normal PDF that we use as a benchmark standard on all of our devices we review for the past 5 years. This is one of the worst PDF experiences we've seen when it comes to changing the experience. If you read the page as is, the screen quality is more than adequate to read what you need to read. You do have text reform, and you have a zoom toggle here that you can go step by step, and we would recommend that over the actual pinch and zoom itself. And you have a fast nav, which does work fairly quickly. We can attribute the amazing glow light to the Kobo manufacturing process because it is quite nice. You can tap the center of the screen and you can toggle off or on the glow light up top, or you can click the glow light button and you can change the illumination from there. You can change the color temperature from cool to warm, or balance it in the middle. You can also invert the colors on the screen and go bright or dark. Dark mode changes everything to dark. Be careful when you're using dark mode and orange. It looks fairly bad, although it is amazing for your eyes. Taking a page out of the book of an early Amazon Paperwhite, you can actually increase the illumination all the way to bright and choose the max button or extended brightness, in which case it'll go into hyperdrive and give you an absolutely massive amount of light powering through this thing, but it does come up with a disclaimer saying this will reduce battery life. This is where the content delivery side of things really starts to shine. There are over 16 different stores you can deal with through 5 countries with this device. So if you live in the EU, you can deal with a plethora of stores. Thalia, ebook.de, Oceander, etc. There's a lot of choices, and every time you select a different country, the respective list of books that you will be able to buy from shows up. So the content delivery is pretty much one of a kind in that they let you choose your own bookstore rather than just dealing with the Kobo Rakuten one. Once you sign into a respective bookstore, you'll notice that it shows up at the bottom here. So I signed into Thalia, so it's going to be at the bottom. When you go to the shop, it's going to now go over to the one that you signed into. Because there's a ton of stores on this, they're all going to look different. They're not going to look exactly the way this one looks. But for example, this one has all of your buying decisions laid out with categories and some top sellers up above. You can go over to the respective book, click on something, you can do a quick buy with these little icons down below, or you can click on the book itself and do a deeper dive. Because these are European stores, everything is going to be in the European language, so if you're watching this video listening to us in English, you will have a little bit of trouble understanding what's going on here, but you can always use your phone or AR or Google Lens to translate this and get your books on your device as easy as possible. Sharing the same shell as the Libra 2 from Kobo Rakuten, you would think that the Vision 6 would be a carbon copy of that unit. But it isn't. They bring their own software to the table, all of its pros and cons along with it, and an interesting content delivery system that favors the European crowd. It has less languages, less storage, and less of an international friendly user experience. But with its amazing build and Carta 1200 screen, the quality shines through. For GoodyReader.com and a review of the Tolino Vision 6, this is Peter.